Okay, so go ahead and get, turn to your page 25, get it set up. Does anyone need more time here on your table of contents? No? Okay. All right. So page 25 should say writing equations of lines. Okay. The date today is the 23rd. Make sure you number your page down in the bottom right corner, right? Way down here, you should have page 25, right? Okay. Okay. So, writing equations of lines. Did everyone get this pink sheet? Okay, we're going to do some notes in the notebook, and we're also going to do some notes in the pink sheet. Okay. So when we're done with the pink sheet, you guys are going to staple it onto that page. Okay? So what we're going to be doing today is we're going to be looking at some graphs and writing the equation of the line that's shown in the graph. Okay? What we want to use is we want to use what we know about slope, intercept, form. You guys remember what slope-intercept form of a line is? It's y equals mx plus b. Do you guys remember that? Okay. What we're going to be filling in is we're going to be using this form, but instead of m, we're going to be putting a number in m's place, and instead of b, we're going to be filling a number in here. Now, the number may be a plus or a minus depending on what the number is. Okay? So, hopefully you guys remember that the m stands for the slope of the line, okay, which is really the rise over the run. Okay? And the b stands for the y-intercept, which is the point where the line crosses the y-axis. So we're looking at the y-axis for the y-intercept. Okay? Now, we're going to use this format. We have what you guys would call like a diagonal line. Okay? And we have some examples that we're going to do together on your pink paper now. So as soon as you guys get this written down, we'll move to the pink paper. Okay. Does anyone need more time writing anything down from that? Okay, one more minute. Okay, so let's take a look at our pink paper. And let's take a look at example number 1. Okay, so what we want to do first is the first thing we want to do is we want to actually find where is the y-intercept. So I'm going to look at this line and look for the place where the line crosses the y-axis. So where do we see that the line crosses the y-axis? What is this number? What is this number on the y-axis? Negative what? 5. So the y-intercept is at negative 5. So your value that you're going to replace b with is negative 5. Okay? Now, the next thing we want to do is we want to find the slope. Okay, so I'm going to go on this line and I'm going to look for another good point where I can really accurately count my slope. So as I move up the line, this is not quite a good point. This is not a good point. This is not a good point. This is not. What about here? This is, okay? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to use these 2 points, and I'm going to count the slope of my line between those 2 points. Now remember, when you count the slope of the line, you're going to start at the point that's on the left and move to the point on the right. Okay, so I'm going to start here and move to this point. And I'm always going to do rise, then run. So if I'm looking at my rise, do I have to move up or do I have to move down to get to the next point? Up. Let's count the boxes. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So my rise was 5. What is my run? 1, 2. I ran to the right. Okay. So here's my slope. The slope of my line is rise, 5, run, 2. Rise over run, 5 over 2. Okay. Now this is all my work. Okay. This is my scratch work. So when I come around tomorrow and I check your homework, what I'm looking to see is I'm looking to see all of this scratch work, okay? Then I'm also going to be looking to see the answer. The answer is the equation of the line using that format, okay? So what we're going to do is we're going to plug in the numbers we found into the spots they belong in the equation, and that's the answer. So the answer is y equals m. What was our m we found? 5 over 2, okay? Then we write x. Now, instead of plus b, I'm going to look at what sign my number was here. It was, what kind of 5? Negative, so I write minus 5. I don't write plus negative 5. I just write minus 5. Yes? Because this fraction wasn't negative. So the question was, how come there's not a negative in the fraction? Because the rise was positive and the run was also positive. Now, sometimes we will get a negative in the fraction, and I'm going to show you an example of that right now. Okay? Good question. Okay, but this is our final answer for number 1. Okay? So that's the answer, but all that other stuff is the work. Okay. So now let's take a look at problem number 2. Okay, so problem number 2, let's first identify where is your y-intercept. So look at your y-axis and look at where the line is crossing with it. What point is this at right here? -4. So your b value is -4. Okay, now what we're going to do is we're going to find another good point to do our slope with. So I'm going to go ahead and move along my line until I think I find another good point. Even when I move up here, is this a good point? Like, look at this point right here. It's close, but it's not quite exact, right? It's really close, so I need to keep moving. And then I find another one over here that's really exact. Do you guys see that one right there? Okay. So I'm going to use these 2 points to find my slope. Okay. So I want to move from the left to the right when I'm finding slope. So I want to start on this point because this point over here is farther to the left. Now, if I rise, I'm never going to get to the next point. So what do I actually have to do? Fall. Okay, so I'm falling 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So this time I went down 5. And I'm running 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay. Now, when I write my number for my slope, my rise was going up or down? Down. So what kind of 5 is it? -5. And my run is 4. Yes, Jeremiah. I can't hear you, sorry.
Is it completely wrong because I went up and then to the left?
Okay, so good question.
I got the same answer.
Okay, so Jeremiah said I went up and to the left instead. Well, let's look at what would happen with that. He would rise 5, and then he would run backwards. If we're running backwards, don't we have to then make the 4 a negative? Yeah. So isn't this another way of writing this with a negative in the middle? And isn't another way of writing this with a negative in the top? So is it still equivalent? Yeah. Okay. So if you accidentally start on the wrong point, just account for that if you run backwards, that means the slope is negative. Okay? All right? Okay, so now let's go ahead and write our final equation. Y equals the slope, negative 5 over 4, x, and what was my y-intercept? Negative 4, right? So minus 4. And this is my answer. But all that other stuff is the work. Okay. Are there questions on what we did on that one? Any questions? Okay. So what you guys are going to do right now is in your groups, I want you guys to discuss and try problem number 3. Okay, so I'm going to give you guys a couple minutes to try that one out. Okay, let's go ahead and take a look at number 3. Okay, so on number 3, where was your y-intercept? Positive or negative 4?
Negative 4.
I'm hearing people tell me negative, but it's up here.
Oh, never mind.
So if it's up here, what kind of 4 is that?
Positive.
Positive, okay? So your B value, B should equal a positive 4, right? Okay. Now, let's find another good spot to help us with our slope. I think right here looks like another good spot. Okay. So I'm going to go ahead and use these 2 points to help me find my slope. I'm going to start with the one on the left, which is this one. And I'm going to rise 1, 2, 3, 4. And I'm going to run how many? 1. Okay? So my slope is 4 over 1. Now, when I go to write this into my equation, am I going to write 4 over 1? What am I going to write? I'm going to just leave it in its reduced form, okay? So now let's go ahead and write the equation of the line. The equation of the line is y equals the slope, 4 times x plus b. So plus 4 this time because it was a positive y-intercept. Does that make sense why that's the answer? Okay. Are there questions on how we got that one? Next, what I want you guys to do is go ahead and try number 4 with your groups. Do not move on to number 5. Okay, just try number 4 right now. Pause when you get to number 5. Okay, so check your work. Okay, did you get that your y-intercept was down here at negative 1?
Yeah.
So your b value should have been negative 1. This was your y-intercept right here. Okay? Now, if I look for another good point on the line, I could have found another good one up here, or I could have also used one down here. And I would have ended up with the same slope no matter which one I chose. Okay? So let's go ahead and use those 2 points to find the slope of my line. So I'm going to rise 1, 2, 3, 4. I went up, and I'm moving to the right 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay? So my slope is rising 4, running 5. Okay. All right, how many of you got that slope for your slope? Okay, cool. All right, so now all we have to do is write this stuff into my equation. So y equals m, what was the m? 4 over 5 times x, and then minus 1, right? Because it was a negative 1. Does that make sense? Okay, so here's your answer. Okay, are there questions on that one? Okay, now, what I want you guys to look at is I want you to look at problem number 5 right now. Okay, is this line, do you guys see where the line is up here? Yeah. Is it a diagonal? Mm-hmm. No. Diagonal meaning like it's slanting? No, it's not, right? So remember how I told you guys we were going to use the slope-intercept form when we had diagonal lines? What's this kind of line called where it goes straight across? Yeah, it has a zero slope. Horizontal, okay? So, I want you to go back to your note page. We're going to write a couple more things down, okay? So, if you have some special cases, these are non-diagonal lines, okay? These are like if I have a horizontal line. Remember, horizontal line means that it's going side to side. This line has a zero slope, right? Okay. So if I have a horizontal line, that means that my y value is in a fixed place. Okay? So since the y value is fixed, the equation of the line looks like this. Y equals some number. And that's it. There's no x's in that equation of the line. Okay? So in this situation, what you're going to do is you're going to identify what this number is, because this number is really just the y-intercept. And all you have to do is write y equals, and then write down what the y-intercept is. Okay? Now, what if the line is a vertical line? Okay, if we get a special case line, which is a vertical line, do you guys remember which way vertical lines go? They don't go side to side. Remember we talked about the vert jump, testing the vert jump, like for sports? Which way are you testing? Up and down, right? So this is an up and down line, right? And remember, if you guys remember this has an undefined slope. Okay. But because it goes up and down, okay, the y values, it doesn't have any y values, okay? There's no y in this equation. We're only going to write what the x value is. And so the equation of this line is going to be x equals a number. And that number that we're going to plug in here is going to be our x-intercept. Okay? So when you are writing the equation of a horizontal or vertical line, your equation is only going to have one variable depending on what the line is. It's either going to have y only or x only, depending on what the line is. Okay? All right, does anyone need more time writing this down? Okay, 30 seconds. Okay, so let's take a look at this line we have in example 5, and we are going to see how we're going to write its equation. Okay, so look at the example we have. Here's your line. It's up top here. Is that line horizontal or vertical? Horizontal, right? So in a horizontal line, we're writing y equals a number, right? So we want to find what the y-intercept is. So here's where it's crossing the y-axis. So the y-intercept of this line is what number? 5. Okay. So the equation of this line is just going to be y equals 5. There are no x's to write down in this line. We're not writing it in slope-intercept form because it's a special case line. Okay, are there any questions on how we got that one? No? Okay. If I had a vertical line, I would look for the place that the vertical line was crossing the x-axis. So say I had a vertical line and it went through x was at -4 for its x-intercept. Then what I would do is I would say the equation of the vertical line with the intercept x equals -4 is just x equals -4. Does that make sense? Because it's vertical. Okay? All right. Next, what I want you guys to do is I want you guys to try number 6. So again, this is another diagonal line. So you should be able to use slope-intercept form to help you write this. Okay? So go ahead and give this one a try in your groups. Okay, so check your work on number 6 and see how you did. Okay, so on number 6, let's take a look. Where is your y-intercept on number 6? Up here. What number is this at? 5. Okay, so your b value is +5, right? Okay, let's find another good point for the slope. So as I move along the line and I look for another good point, it looks like I find one way down here, right here. Does that make sense? Okay, so I'm going to use that point to help me find my slope. Now, when I find my slope, I'm going to start on the left and move to the right. So I'm going to rise. How much do I rise? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Okay, how much do I run? 1, 2, 3. Okay, so my slope, since I rise 7 and run 3, is going to be what? 7/3. Okay, so now let's write the final equation of the line. So what is the final equation of this line? Y equals over 3x plus 5. Who got it right? Raise your hand. Okay, good.